Hey everybody, well, the firing happened. Ken Norton Jr. was let go, fired by the Oakland Raiders earlier. I talked about it on my first vlog from the airport. Now I'm here in Georgia, settled, and yeah, I'm going to say some things that some Raider fans aren't going to like. So what? But look, simple fact of the matter is that Ken Norton Jr. was hired originally in part from a lot of pressure from folks like myself who were saying, hey, are you going to have an entirely white head coaching staff or coaching staff? I mean, quality control, white, male. Not even a female as an intern like Dr. Jen Welter, okay? Or as a coach. Dr. Jen Welter is a linebacker coach, okay? But you go around and it really looked like the Raiders coaching staff was becoming whites only. And I, for one, started pointing that out. Then, at first, Jack Del Rio tried to get Todd Grantham to be his defensive coordinator, but that didn't work out. And I wasn't convinced personally that Grantham could make his approach work at the NFL level, particularly since in terms of voice, he was more tuned to talking to kids than adults. And I don't mean that as a put down. It's just there are some coaches who are really accustomed to college because at that point the football players are more moldable, malleable. There's some people who can simply teach, like the Bill Walshes, and they bring that to the pro level. Todd Grantham hasn't proven he's one of those folks. So, almost out of the blue came Ken Norton Jr. And when Del Rio was asked about what he was going to do with Ken Norton Jr. as an admittedly young defensive coordinator, he said he was for all practical purposes grooming Ken Norton Jr. to be defensive coordinator as he was defensive coordinator. And he brought Ken Norton Jr. in to install the Seattle style of offense that's right, Del Rio himself had tried to install with the Broncos. I said Seattle style. Now, Seattle style offense, some people know it as USC style offense. Some people know it as Monty Kiffin style offense as opposed to Tony Dungy. It has a history. It goes all the way back to the late 70s, early 80s. A rich history. It is known, for the most part, for having and being demarcated by the three technique and the elephant position. It's known for primarily being a system that produces a giant shell around the defense if you choose to play that style of Seattle defense. The real style featured two gapping among the linemen. And look, that's where the coaching philosophies differ. Okay? But the bottom line is Ken Norton Jr. was brought in from Seattle because he knew those techniques and those ideas and that style of 4-3 defense, right? Think about it. Think about what I'm saying to you. 4-3 defense. I'm going to repeat it again. 4-3 defense, okay? I'm going to repeat it one more time. 4-3 defense. I'm going to repeat it a third time. 4-3 defense, okay? In. Now, it's important for everybody to remember, and I'm going to ask you to think with me, okay? You don't have to agree with me, just think. We're basically in the middle of the season. We're not talking about an end of the season move. This is in the middle of the season. All right? As Donald Richardson Hayes says, 4-3, we get it. Okay, if you get it, then get this. The person that was elevated to take Ken Norton Jr.'s place, John Pagano, is not a 3-4 guy. Excuse me, he's not a 4-3 guy. Repeat, John Pagano is not a 4-3 guy. John Pagano is a 3-4 guy. He is a 3-4 defensive guy. 3-4, okay? Not 4-3. In fact, when Anthony Lynn was hired as the coach of the San Diego Chargers, he fired John Pagano. Why? Because John Pagano, it's not because John Pagano was white, no. That wasn't an issue at all. John Pagano is a 3-4 guy. Gus Bradley, the current defensive coordinator, is a 4-3 guy. Anthony Lynn wanted a 4-3 guy. Ken Norton's a young 4-3 guy. So you have to ask, why is it that Del Rio is replacing a 4-3 guy with a 3-4 guy in the middle of the season? It's not to install the 3-4 and just do a wholesale defensive change, just like that. Because that calls for a lot more than you realize. I mean, a ton more, especially when you've worked through training camp to get certain players accustomed to playing defense a certain way based on alignments you've established in the playbook and everything else. And all of a sudden, the guy that you brought in Pagano to help with communication with the defensive backfield is now your defensive coordinator. He is not only your defensive coordinator, he is not the defensive coordinator that on paper you should want to coach a 4-3 defense. In fact, I keep saying it. He's a 3-4 guy. Now, for those of you out there saying, what's the difference? I'll tell you, all right? When we say 3-4, we're really talking about what Tom Landry, when he was the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, referred to as the 3-2. Nose tackle, inside linebackers here. And defensive ends. So you have 3 down linemen and then 2 inside linebackers, hence 3-2. Okay, hence 3-2, as opposed to basically a 4-1. That was Landry's way of thinking about it. Meaning that you knew you were going to have the outside linebackers here, weak side and strong side. Okay, or right and left, depending on how you think about it. That was a given. But for Coach Landry, the difference came inside. In a 4-3 is actually 4-1. In a 3-4 is actually 3-2, hence 3-2 defense. And that alignment of having the nose tackle center and being asked to control either gap, theoretically, the idea is to keep the linemen off the linebackers. In a 4-3 or 4-1, the idea is for the defensive tackles to pick a single gap, draw double teams, and allow the middle linebacker to roam. It's a fundamental difference. Because you don't have enough linemen here to really, by action, force a double team. What you do is you have this nose tackle anchoring this, and then controlling 2 gaps. And ideally, that nose tackle should be good enough to cause a double team, like a Michael Carter with the San Francisco 49ers or your Reggie Kinlaw with the Raiders, particularly in Super Bowl 15, where Dick Vermeil famously said, "Where the hell's the nose guard coming from?" So, remember that? So, now, that's just the rudimentary part of a set of basic differences. In a 3-4, you have to make sure that you figure out ways to cover up that bubble area between end, nose tackle, and linebacker, and so on. So it begs the question, are the Raiders going to go to a 3-4 in the middle of the season? The obvious answer is no. You see what I'm walking you through? I'm trying to get everybody to think about the logic of what happened here, or the ill logic of what happened here. It doesn't make sense. Something else happened to cause this. because it doesn't make sense. Now, Pagano was let go, and I'm telling you something, and this is the talk that goes around. You have occasions where experienced, but let's face it, coach killer level white coaches get fired in place of younger black coaching talent. That's happening a lot more now. And if you study Jack Del Rio's history as a head coach, who he knows, he tends to hire people who are, and Dirk Carter has this as well, who are his friends, his little group that he's come up with, which happens to be white. Okay. And only time he's forced to get out of that is when there's trouble. So here, there was trouble. And my point is that I'm going to say this. That firing wasn't done by Jack Del Rio. That firing was done by Mark Davis. It has, because it's too illogical. It makes no sense whatsoever. And it's almost like the owners saying, hey, you know, this black guy screwed up my defense. Get rid of him. That's exactly what it looks like. And I don't care what anyone says. I think on the outset, warned you I was going to say something you're not going to like. But it really looks like that to me. Because, again, the loss for the last game, okay? The loss for the last game, all right, was pure and simple. I mean, very pure and simple. Hey, you want to see how quick something comes up on live stream, by the way? Watch this. I just started this, okay? If I type John Pagano and Jack Del Rio, this is what I get on Google. That's live right now. That's new. See? See that? All right? See? Look at that. That's us right now. Okay? All right. Interesting. That's also brand new. All right? So my point is that John Pagano was put up there, had to be put up there by Mark Davis. He just plain had to. Okay? He just plain had to. And there's no other reason. There's no other reason to explain it. Because, again, it doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense. At all. Now, in fairness to Pagano, well, it's not so much a matter of fairness. But there is a, how do I say it? There is a, an interesting bit of drama here, because Pagano was not just the Chargers defensive coordinator. He was with the Chargers for a long time. I mean, a long time. He quite literally was cemented in that position. And then Del Rio brought him along like that. Yeah, it's a lot of experience. But what Del Rio did to Ken Norton Jr. was pretty bad. He basically put this guy, this experienced white guy, in a position to look over his head at the same time that Del Rio says, I am training Ken Norton Jr. to be my defensive coordinator. Okay? I mean, he said that. He said that. That's exactly what he said. But also, it takes the focus off the real problem of the Raiders right now, which is the offense. So now everyone's looking right back at defense. Defense defense has been a problem all year long, but we expected the offense to help bail out the defense, and that didn't happen. The offense had a terrible game. The offense has had a terrible season. Yet, they left the offense alone. The play design has been horrible. The play calling has been worse. Okay? The repertoire is atrocious in terms of its small number of plays. It's just bad. It's just bad. And now that I've lit everybody on fire to this point, I'll take a look at your comments. And sorry for the late start, but I have to note that I was traveling, as some of you saw. And I am here. All right. So, let's see here. Hawaiian Raider says Downing should be fired too, but they might give him a few more games since his first year. Norton had, what, 3 years? I think it's a difference, though, Hawaiian Raider. And the difference, well, it is a difference. Downing was brought in as quarterback coach. And he wasn't brought in to essentially learn a system. The system, I mean, he was brought in to help design a system. He did, but he was quarterback coach. But it had Musgrave's imprint on it. And then Downing was elevated because the Raiders felt that someone else is going to snap up this talented person, okay? And we're seeing now that it couldn't have been the case because Downing is not showing the talent we were led to believe by hype he had. Kim Norton Jr. wasn't elevated by the Raiders to keep him from going someplace else. No. And again, Kim Norton Jr. was brought in because Jack Del Rio wanted his specific game. And in fact, in this year, it wasn't until this year that Norton Jr. was allowed to call the plays. He was allowed to call the plays, and it was said that basically Kim Norton Jr. will make the play calls, but with Jack Del Rio involved, grooming him. Okay, that's what it says here. Let me show you. You have doubts? Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, here, look. Kim Norton. This is February 6th, 2015. Kim Norton Jr. to make play calls with Jack Del Rio involved, grooming him. You get it? You get it? Grooming him. And race is an issue. Get it? Grooming him. Okay? It says it right there. One of the questions throughout Raiders' process of finding a new defensive coordinator was how much influence head coach Jack Del Rio would have in the calling of the defensive plays. After several weeks of interviews, they found their man in Kim Norton Jr., formerly the linebacker coach for the Seattle Seahawks. Norton Jr. said Del Rio would be very much involved in the handling of the defense, but that's a poorly written sentence, but that Norton Jr. would be making the play calls on game day. He says, well, there's no question anytime you have a defensive head coach, he's always going to be involved, said Norton Jr. I've had that with all my years with Pete Carroll. They certainly are going to be involved, very informed and kind of leading the way. There's no question about that. Certainly with Pete Carroll being my mentor and Jack Del Rio, a guy that we played together and we kind of grew up in the same type of ideas on how to attack offense and how to protect yourself on defense. I have certain ideas that I know that works. He has certain ideas he has that no work. So we're going to bring them together and obviously make them the Raider way. And he says, there hasn't been a formal discussion, but just in my early meetings with him, his plan is to continue to groom me, and I'll be making calls. All right? Norton Jr. and Del Rio have known each other for some 25 years and are familiar with each other's style and personality, and each has their individual careers and successes since then, both as players and coaches. Jack and I are old friends. We're old teammates from our early Dallas Cowboys days, and we kind of kept in contact over the years. I've been watching his career, and obviously he's been watching my career, and we've always talked about being able to put my time and energy and knowledge together as well as his and really come together and make a winner, all right? And that is why I'm telling you this came from Mark Davis. It did not come from Ken Norton. Excuse me. It did not come from Jack Del Rio. This has Mark Davis imprint all over it. All over it. All over it. And not only that, and again, the offense was the problem, because if the offense can't stay on the field, especially at that altitude, and keeps putting the defense back on the field to get strafed again and again and again, that's not the defense's fault. The offense couldn't move the ball to give the defense a rest and score points and make a game of it. You have to be able to understand that, all right? So Frank West says, yes, Ken Norton was an absolute garbage coach. All you do is make it about race. No, I'm not going to stop it, Frank. Because you hear what you want to hear, and I'm pushing to you what I assert. It is about race. It is about race. Okay? And maybe it's about race with a lot of you guys who, you know that Del Rio's grooming Ken Norton Jr. You know it's Del Rio's defense, and yet some of you don't have the cojones enough to just say, hey, Del Rio should be fired. All right? But really it was Mark Davis that did it. So I'm putting it on you guys. Because some of you guys out there, you do have some race issues. Let's face it. You just don't want to hear a voice like mine. Some of you want to hear a voice that just, oh yeah, scalp the black guy without saying black guy. Well, I'm going to call it like it is right in our faces. Because it is laid out there to bear. And anybody, if you run a number of families who are black, they're going to say that. So what you're getting here is what black folks talk about around the table. If you can't handle that, you can't handle being an American citizen. Sorry. So you can, whatever, okay? So, let's see here. Bernard says the whole coaching staff should be fired, okay? So, let's see here. And I'm not saying this for people in the chat to see it at all. Because I am purely saying that this was a decision that was based on an observation by someone who, it's like last hired, first fired, okay? Among the last positions to be filled was defensive coordinator. Hire the black guy, last hired. Then when trouble starts, first fired. Don't like it? Tough. You don't like my observation of that? Too bad. Say you're not going to watch me anymore? Bye-bye. Care less. Care less. You like the good here, you have to deal with the bad. All right? This is the bad. All right? Bernard says 0 interceptions, ranked last in every category, no improvement over the last 3 years, and it's about race though. Yeah, it is, because they put him in and they set him up to fail. Purely. It's Del Rio's defense, and Del Rio says he's grooming him. It's right there. Levi Damien wrote it. Del Rio said, I'm grooming him. What part of grooming do you not fucking understand? Are you stupid? I'm just asking you. Are you dense? Seriously, are you dense? You have to be. You have to have this. You have to have a level of stubbornness equal to the thickness of the skin of a rhinoceros not to see that. Jeez. All right. Okay. Otis B says, like I said earlier, as a black person, you can't help but look at it like this, though. Even though this might not be about race, you have to think about it at the back of your mind. It's always at the back of your mind. And the tableau is there, okay? Longtime, experienced white guy coach gets fired. People are upset. The person who fires him is a black guy, Anthony Lynn. So then a white guy coach who happens to have his defensive coordinator as a friend picks him up, because he knows this guy too. Puts him in a position to look over his friend's shoulder, okay? The season that was supposed to be really great starts going to a tank. The owner gets pissed off and said, you need to make a change. I want this guy out of here, pointing at your black defensive coordinator, because he's the problem, even though he really isn't the problem, because he's actually implementing your defense. All right? And he elevates a guy who's a 3-4 guy and not a 4-3 Seattle guy. Okay? It's right there in our faces. You don't want to see it? I don't care. I don't care, okay? And, you know, you can keep whining about it and crying about it and writing chats or trying to figure out all kinds of colorful things you can't write on this because of the way I designed it. Go and tire yourself out. But my point of view stands. That's what this looks like. Okay? That's what it looks like. And it calls into question the fact that you've got a ton, and you have a ton of black players, but still very few black assistant coaches comparatively, where you can elevate someone. There's enough of us to go around. And so then the same tableau that we complain about with respect to the owners and the players rears its head here too. And yet no one says, well, gee, hey, how much of this had to do with race? Because you set this guy up to fail. Del Rio put this guy in, his friend supposedly. Owner comes along and says, excuse me, get rid of him. He's gone. So now a lot of you who are really, when it comes to this, ridiculous in your thinking, you really are ridiculous in your thinking. Great people, but I disagree with your thinking. You disagree with me here, I disagree with you, okay? We disagree with each other. I'm not trying to sway you. I'm trying to piss you off because I am pissed off, okay? That's what's going on here. I'm not trying to convince you of a single thing. So don't you worry about a thing. I'm trying to piss you off because I'm pissed off. I'm tired of that. You could see it coming. It was like John Pagano was a sword of Damocles over the head of Ken Norton Jr. waiting to be dropped by Mark Davis. Okay? Hey, we're grooming you. This is going to be great for you. Sit down. This is fantastic, okay? This is fantastic, all right? Karen Christian says, what does Mike Tomlin have to do with this? Mike Tomlin was hired by the Steelers to be head coach. He is still the head coach. He is, okay? You only see the fact that you point at Mike Tomlin because he's black echoes the racism I'm talking about. Because your comparison is illogical. It makes no sense. Now, but since you mentioned Mike Tomlin, I can say this, okay? And it's simply this. Russ Grimm expected to be Steelers head coach. There were a couple of white guys that expected to be the Steelers head coach. They were pissed off the black guy got it. And they all but said it like that, okay? I'm only turning what the background talk is inside out. Why you can't handle it? Hey, welcome to the world. Handle it, 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 handle it. Okay? Handle it, handle it. Okay? So, and actually it says, so Musgrave was a scapegoat for Downing? No. Musgrave went to another job. He was not the subject of a tweet by the Raider organization. Unlike Ken Norton Jr., the Raiders made it known publicly that they were parting ways with Ken Norton Jr. They made it known, all right? Known. Understand? They made it known. Known. They didn't do that to Musgrave. They basically did this. They did, okay, Ken Norton Jr., this is what they did. Hey, this is why I say it's Mark Davis. Something happened here. They basically got up and said to Ken Norton Jr., okay, bam, bam, get out. Bam, get out. That's what they did. They kicked him. You know, sending out a tweet like that is the equivalent of kicking somebody in the hindquarters on the way out the door. Okay? That's what they did. So you can't compare Musgrave. There's no comparison. No. All right? No. Okay? No comparison. So Karen says that you brought up that Mike Tomlin is black and successful, but you brought him up because he's black. You're missing the point. Okay? You're missing the point. Completely missing the point. What I'm talking about is something that we've talked about before, especially whenever Rick Rice would say, fire Ken Norton, I would say, and I said this before. So I saw this coming. And I said, hey, if you're going to fire Ken Norton, remember that? I kept saying, if you're going to fire Ken Norton, you got to fire Jack Del Rio. Because it was Jack Del Rio that said he was grooming Ken Norton. That's just common sense. That's common sense. But I don't believe it was Del Rio that did it. It was Mark Davis. It was Mark Davis. Okay? As Joshua Agee said, anyone with a brain could see this coming. I have a brain, and even though I might have been able to see it coming, that doesn't mean this. That doesn't mean I don't think it's stupid. It was completely stupid. At all. Okay? At all. All right? So my point is this. If you don't like the news, go out and make some of your own. Okay? All right? But I'm going to make this statement again and again and again. I did it before Norton was hired, when the Raiders were bringing every white guy in on the planet for an interview, and they were token interviewing black head coaches. Truth. Okay? And I'm tired of it. I am completely tired of it. So, like for example, when we were talking about replacements, and I said, hey, look, instead of thinking about a name or a face, let's ask ourselves the real good question. What kind of defense do we want? All right? What kind? Raider Kuko, hey, how you doing? Raider says, hey, Zen, you're not sure if this was racist, but does not look good since OC was not fired. I would have fired him first. Exactly. That's logical. All right? That's why I said this came from Mark Davis. And also says, do you think we should get rid of Downey from McCoy? No. If someone asked me that before, no, I don't. Because, look, for the same reason that I don't favor, unless they're specialized, it's why I don't favor doing wholesale trades. In other words, more than one player in the middle of the season. You've formed your game, you've formed your playbook, went through the training of your plays, practicing your plays, drafting players to fit your system, learn your terminology, most important, and each other, and now all of a sudden in the middle, you're changing horses in the middle of the stream. Remember the old song, don't change horses in the middle of the stream. Giddy up, Hi-yo, Silva. That song. There's a reason for that. That's an old song. Don't change horses in the middle of the stream. That's what the Raiders did. It was a panic move. It was like, nah, what do we do? We got to do something that looks like we're serious about winning. So Mark says, I know, fire the black guy. Everybody wants him gone anyway. Fire the black guy. That's what they did. Jeez. Okay, all right. So Thomas says, if you don't do your job, you get fired, plain and simple. Well, Thomas, let's explore that. You say if you don't do your job, you get fired, plain and simple. Okay. If your job is to do what the head coach tells you to do, you're doing your job. Ken Norton Jr. did his job. He implemented the defense Jack Del Rio asked for. And he got fired anyway. Okay. So, by your own words, all right, what happened to Ken Norton Jr. was wrong. He did his job. We've talked about in this platform since preseason the technique problems of the Raiders' defensive line. And I said then, and I said again, and I said again, that the head coach determines the technique. Del Rio determines how the defense is coached, the technique that's used. Norton comes in. He is in place to echo what Del Rio wants. That is why he was put there. That is by their own admission. Ken Norton Jr. was never brought in to be a Rex Ryan, to put his own scheme in. He says he has his ideas. Of course he has his ideas. But Del Rio has his. And they both play together in the same system. What they put on the field was a system that they both know. What we now call the Tampa system. Excuse me. We used to call it Tampa 2, and now it's been refined, and we now call it the Seattle style of defense. Okay? And so now you have a guy in Pagano who's not cut from that cloth. He's a 3-4 guy. He's a 3-4 guy. So all of this has the makings of a firing that was done for illogical reasons. Race among them. The race thing was always there. The Raiders put it there from the start. It was there. Okay? Sean Grogan says, Norton is a rah-rah guy, not a schemer. Glad he's gone. I don't wish bad on anyone, but he was not good at his job. Wish him the best. And my point is that I disagree with that. He was a schemer in the context of knowing the defense he played in. Okay? The defense he played in is the same one that Del Rio played in. Again, the Seattle style of defense. A defense that goes back to Monty Kiffin in Nebraska in, I believe, 1978. Okay? So, he knows that style of defense. So to say he's not a schemer there, no, he is a schemer. And again, he was being groomed by Del Rio. So if he was being groomed by Del Rio, I asked the same question I asked before. Why didn't Jack fire himself? Why didn't Jack say to Mark Davis, you know what? If you're going to fire him, you need to fire me. Because I groomed him. Okay? All right? It's a bitter pill you don't want to swallow. Start gulping. Start gulping. Karen Christian says, who in their right mind would fire themselves? An honest broker. Happens before. It's happened before. Hey, Bill Walsh won the Super Bowl, stepped down. Too stressful. Got out. Took some time off, became a consultant, went back to the college ranks, to Stanford. Made Stanford, by 1993, if I'm not mistaken, co-Pac-12 champions. One of the finest years in Stanford football history. Okay? He got out and he came back. Why? Because at the end of the day, you have to answer to an owner who wants wins now. Mark Davis wants wins now. And Mark Davis is a guy who doesn't do the X's and O's thing, okay? He's more of a fan watching the game who owns the team. So all these nuances I'm talking to you about and everything, Mark kind of knows some of that, but nah. He only knows what he sees. And he came in and said, okay, DC out. Now what Del Real should have said is, hey, look, we're in the middle of the season. We need to maintain continuity. If you let go of him, you need to let go of me. Because I made him. And I made that defense, and I'm going to fix it. And we're going to fix it together. That wasn't the problem. An honest broker would say, the problem was really with our offense, and we had a sucky game plan. That was my fault. An honest broker says that. An honest broker doesn't hang a person out to dry. Okay? So Mark steps in, says, get rid of this guy. Del Real says, okay, I'm parting ways with him to save my neck. Hey, my neck versus yours, well, I kind of left you teetering out there anyway, so I might as well just let you go. Whew. Bad. Look, that is how it looks. You don't like it, but that's too bad. You're not going to get this take anywhere else in the world, folks. Well, no. Okay? Bernard says, that's how the world is. And Bernard, thank you for the comment of the night. You're right. And so since that is how the world is, don't get mad at me for pointing it out. Some of you are. Bernard, 543, gets the award for the night. And Bennett says he's fired a league-leading 22 coordinators. Melvin Lovejoy says Reggie could have fired him. Coaches get fired in hopes of spark players. Happens all the time in sports. Yeah, but Melvin, this firing isn't sparking the players. It's pissing them off. Did you happen to see Bruce Irwin's tweet? If you haven't, let me show it to you, all right? It's pretty bad, okay? This is what he put out, all right? Okay. All right. Oh, by the way. Hey, CBS Sports pointed it out for me. Thank you very much. They all did. Look at this. Here we go. Raiders linebacker Bruce Irvin appears to rip team for defensive coordinator firing. Okay. And you see it's exactly what he put out there. Okay. Okay. That's what he put out there. Not happy. Not happy. Let's see this from another perspective. Excuse me. Right there. Okay. And 8 hours later, it's still there. Okay. And Bruce Irvin is absolutely right. Who was also brought over. And see, this doubles down on what I'm saying. He was brought over. Okay. Now some idiot says, really, leave with him. Okay. That's stupid. All right. And someone says, and don't let the door hit you. This is a Mike P. Whatever this. It's another guy who refuses to identify himself by his real name. Okay. All right. You got to play opposite Mac. Mike P says, nope, I work for a living. What a nasty guy, okay? I mean, it's folks like this, you know, who probably have really small Twitter follower counts. All right? I rest my case. That's a small Twitter follower account. Jeez Louise, okay? Who do that sort of thing. All right? It says, y'all should play better than needed to be done. Now Del Rio needs to go. Bring back Gruden. These people around this, Gruden thing is just idiotic. Okay? I mean, completely idiotic. So my point is this. Okay? This is why an increasing number of NFL players don't like their fans. Because a lot of you really aren't fans of the players. I mean, I don't know what you're fans of. But you got a guy, and you should be sticking up for Bruce Irwin and saying, hey, man, we're with you. And instead, some of you are flaming him on Twitter. It's like you're saying, no, black guy, you're supposed to know your place. That's how the athletes take it. I'm telling you, that's how the athletes take it. So if they strike, when they strike next time around, don't be surprised if they figure out a way to stick it to some fans too. Some of you guys deserve it. I mean, you really do. You know? I don't know. I don't know what part of I don't want to be a slave you're not hearing. I mean, you're really that stupid? I'm asking you a question. I'm asking. Okay? I mean, you guys expect the player to just do things, but not support the player. Look at the way they talk to him on Twitter. I just saw that. That's horrible. And he sees that. So is that supposed to translate into a great game on Sunday? He's a human being. All right? Okay? All right? Yeah, it is Twitter for you. Okay? Sean Gross says, we're on different planets with this and I'm a man of color. I do not believe this has anything to do with color. Sean, completely disagree with you. 1,000%. Okay? And it's not a matter of my asking you to agree, but you say you're a man of color. Are you a black man? Have you been racially profiled? Have you been in situations like this one? All right? Okay? So if you've been in situations like this one, the next question is, why would you wish that upon someone else? That doesn't make any sense to me. Makes no sense to me. Okay? None. None. Big April says Downing is yes. Next. I'll bet you Downing's not. I'll bet you Downing sticks around. Okay? I'll bet that. The person with the account I don't understand says the athletes are overpaid, childish adults. They make so much money. They should leave politics out of a game, play football, and save the theatrics for another time. Football is for athletic competition, and that is a completely stupid take. And it's stupid because you're asking for a person to sit down, shut up, and entertain you. I'm telling you, your position worked a century ago. It doesn't work today. I'm not concerned with whether or not you want to deal with it. That's the way it is. Athletes are not going to do that. And I'll tell you a specific reason why. There are too many media eyeballs focused on them, which give them power, which give them an automatic platform. And yeah, I didn't say automatic. I said automatic platform. And in a social media environment, they're using that platform, something we didn't have before. And they understand the power of image more so than their predecessors. So, hey, look, you don't like that they take a stand? I got news for you. They don't like you either. A lot of the black athletes talk about how white fans treat them. Why do you think about this, why do you think Ron Artest went up in the stands after that guy who was throwing stuff at him? White guy, okay? Who did that? I mean, okay? It was wrong for people to throw stuff at him, but all that got reported because Ron lost his temper was Ron Artest losing his temper and now being rebranded into Meta World Peace. I felt sorry for him for being goaded into that. I felt sorry for him for not having the necessary people around him to say, hey, you know what? We got your back. Okay? Because a lot of you folks out there are just terrible. You'd rather see an athlete suffer because maybe they didn't make the right block or something like that, or what you think the right block, and completely divorce yourself from the idea that this athlete is being coached a certain way. I remember I had a great conversation with former 49er linebacker Keith Fahnhorst at the Atlanta Super Bowl, one of the parties I went to. And I said to Mr. Fahnhorst that this was actually, now that I really start to think about it, this is 2004 at the Houston Super Bowl. And I said to Mr. Fahnhorst that an athlete is a physical artist. And the job of the coach is to present the right canvas for that person to express what they do. He said, I never heard of anyone thinking about it like that. But that's what we're talking about. Okay? The coach puts the right canvas together for the athlete. But a lot of you act like there's no canvas there. So, okay. So, let's see here. Let's see here. And I think that... Karen Christian says, our team fell apart on the day that Mark Davis allowed the team to kneel. They're paid to play football. And it's destroying the love. Karen, you don't love football. All right? If it's destroying the love you have for football, my point is you don't love football. Because if you love football, then it's not going to matter to you. I love the game of football. I understand the techniques of football. I have my own playbooks. I have drawn up plays since high school. I gave a play to John Gruden that he loved. You guys talk about John Gruden, okay? At the same Lee Steinberg Super Bowl party in 2004. After he had invited me to come to Raider headquarters for a whiteboard talk that I didn't follow him up on, and then I ran into him at Lee's party, and I said, hey, remember that play I was telling you about? And he goes, what are you standing for? Get the fucking napkin. So I did. I drew the play up for him. Then when he started covering the draft for ESPN, I reminded him about that. I drew it up. He started laughing. He goes, yeah, I remember this. It worked. Okay? I love football and its techniques. I love football. Dr. Jen Walter loves football. So when you say you love football, I question you on that. Okay? All right? I question you on that. You don't love football. If you love football, you make sure the athletes are happy. Because they are the ones that are responsible for, in part, working in conjunction with the coaches, the on-the-field product. So if you love football, you support the athletes and you make sure that they're happy. You don't just tell them to sit down and shut up. Because then you don't love football and you sure as heck don't like them. And you know what? They see this stuff and they don't like you guys either. They don't. And so what happens is that little by little, the quality of play goes down, outcomes turn out, different than you expected because the players aren't into it, because some fan pissed them off on social media. All of this has an impact. The mind controls the physiology of the body. A positive mind, positive body. A negative mind, a negative body. Have you ever thought once to stop and ask yourself how you're making the athlete feel? My answer is, it's never occurred to you. Ever. Why not just once say to the athlete, we hear you? Why not? Why not support the athletes like Ken Norton Jr. and Jack Del Rio, but Ken Norton Jr. in particular, who get elevated, and support them? Hey, look, a lot of you guys have been on Ken Norton Jr. since day one. The minute he was put in there, some of you guys were against him. A lot of you guys were against him. You gave him no room, in spite of the fact that he was Del Rio's puppet. And he was. He was Jack Del Rio's puppet. You gave him no room. As opposed to what you do when you like somebody. You draw up plays for them on a paper, send them defensive ideas, right? Make sure they get them. Okay? That's what you do. Whew. All right. So, Paul Ortiz says protests have helped anything they're supposedly protesting against. Paul, I think you're right about that one. Akuma says something I'm not going to repeat. Jim Lee says, was the protest such a protest before or after Trump made an issue of it? It was after Trump made an issue of it. The president has the bully pulpit. Let's see here. Someone is... I'm not going to allow this particular thing, because I don't allow... I'm going to say something. I don't allow anybody to use a screen name that impersonates somebody else. Okay? So... I not only deleted the message, but I've got to block that person. I'm not even going to say who they tried to be. That person is simply out. You cannot do that on this channel. I don't care what your feelings are. Donald Richardson, one of my great moderators, says, I was against it from day one, I confess, but I was against Del Rio too. And Charles Foster Kane did the same thing. Okay, I can't allow that. So, all right, Charles Foster Kane is a celebrity, so blocked you. Sorry about that. That's not allowed. Okay? It's been a game. He says, I agree with you, Donald. Cool. And by this banning, you should obviously realize I don't care about numbers. What I care about is authenticity. I prefer you just use your name, your real name. But using names of public figures like that, not here. So, Silka says you can't just assume it's gender-based. Of course it's gender-based. We're talking about men. Of course it's gender-based. Race. It's close as race-based. It is. What you don't like is hearing... What you don't like is being, in a sense... caused to look at the world through a lens that a black person looks at it through. But after you've been treated ways again and again and again, you can't help it. Okay? You can't help it. Remember, I didn't say you had to agree with me. I'm putting this in your face. This is in your face. I'm not saying agree with me. I'm saying this is the way the world is, and it's not right. And some of you are not right for supporting it. And what I mean by that is those of you who are supported, not all of you, are not right. The great Harry Dunn disagrees with me, but he's still the great Harry Dunn. Harry Dunn says, Zinni, why haven't the Raiders fired their wide receiver coach who's black? They're responsible for a group that has been near the top of the league in drops year after year. Because, Harry, first of all, you kind of said it yourself. He's the wide receiver coach. He's not the coordinator. And the wide receiver coach is connected to the offensive coordinator, not the head coach. Okay? So you don't make a statement by firing your wide receiver coach. Simple. That's a simple answer. Big April says, for all that don't like the protest these men are doing, don't watch. That's simple. Ding. Selling 2K says, I don't disagree with you. I'm sure you know a lot more than me. Yeah, it's based on a lot of my personal experiences. Okay? And when you're doing commentary like this, that's what you bring to the table. Not just my personal experiences, but Karen Christensen, you know, she doesn't get this. And she has this sort of psychological wall that I kind of like to, you know, tap on. Go like, hey, Karen. Hey, Karen. Okay? So my point is, all right, we all have our points of view that we bring into this. But it really is where the rubber meets the road. And how can you tell? That people are exercised about it. You ought to be. That's where communication comes in. What happened? All right? So, Rudy Gomez says, Mr. Z, how you doing, Mr. Gomez? He says, in regards to Raiders supposedly breaking ground, does that exempt them from the new upcoming tax law? No, it does not. Because the tax law specifically deals with when the bonds are let, not when a facility's ground is broken. Let's see here. Vincent Gomez says, dissent makes you right. And let's see here. Bernard says, rather kneel than get hit by a car by a white supremacist? Anyway, Harry Dunn says, I'm okay with the protest, but players should recognize the good themes of the anthem too. But that's not the point, see? You know what the point is? The point is, the problem is, and this happens a lot. I mean, it's happened at Stanford to me. And I started to make a video about it right then and there. This is a big game, all right? There's a line, like a red line, that you stand behind when you're watching the game and you're standing, you want to stand up and you want to walk along the corridor, okay? And the other side of that line are these areas for the disabled, okay? On 5 different occasions, someone, white and male, would stand inside that line in the disabled. They had no business there. I was standing on the line subconsciously. Older white woman comes over and she points down, and I immediately said this. I said, you know what? If you're going to do that with me, you need to talk to him next. This guy, I was playing this tall white guy, about 6'7". This guy is right here, and you weren't even going to talk to him. Okay? You were not going to talk to him. And she goes, I'm getting there, okay? But had I not said something, she was about to head off away from me. Okay? There was another guy, Stanford, they call them Stanford guest services people, okay? Had the same job. He let white guy after white guy stand in that area, said nothing to them. And I'm just watching him. I'm just watching the dude. This was Saturday at the big game. But if the person were black, me, hey, you got to get back on the line. And I told him about it. He goes, oh, okay. And rather than, you know, make a scene about it, I started joking with him in the game because he's wearing red at Stanford. I said, well, you know you're going to lose, right? That's what this is really about, isn't it? He started cracking up. So we were friends, all right? Because my objective is to go to the game and watch the game, not be harassed. But as a black person, you get harassed. And these are things that happen, these microaggressions, on a daily basis. And so then I go through these, and, you know, the Seth claims he's a person of color. If you're a person of color and you allow this to go on, you're weak, man. My point is, and you're just straight out weak. Because you're the kind of person that allows this society to keep doing that and not get better. And then you turn around on social media and say, well, I'm a man of color, and I don't see it differently. Yeah, okay, right. If you're really a man of color and someone treat you like that, and either you would go away or your parents or your true friends or family would. If they didn't, it's a sure sign they don't like you or care about your well-being or respect you. You don't disrespect people like that. But that is the kind of interaction that caused the late Ralph Wiley, the great Sports Illustrated writer and columnist, to write the book, Why Black People Tend to Shout. Okay. So my point is, let's see here. Jamal Miller says every amendment, where is this? Let's see here. Every amendment, let's see here. Where did Paul Ortiz go here? Sorry, Paul. Or is it Jamal? I got Harry Dunn's comment. Nick Rangel says Rob Moore is doing a good job as wide receiver coach. Can't blame the drops on him. Not only that, Carr was overthrown a lot of passes. And Crawford says the Trolls are having a feast tonight. I don't see them. Bennett says the anthems doesn't stand for anything at this point. It's lost in its meaning. Honestly, it's lost its meaning in the 60s. However, if the Trolls are having the feast and the moderators aren't doing their job, I might have to get some new moderators. So if there's something out there, hey, moderators, lightsaber, okay, just saying, lightsaber, all right. Jim Lee says, how can the players make their voices kneeling heard instead of their statement being turned into something that's allegedly against the flag and the national anthem? Jim, that's a great question. And it goes to something that LeBron James put out. He had a shirt that said, let me see if I can find that shirt. Let's see here. I'm not going to borrow the font. I'm just going to say basically it said, we kneel, it's basically, the shirt says in a way that white people don't see black people when they scream racism. Kind of like here, right? And my retort was that puts us, when you put that out in the position of not taking action to change things rather than asking someone who doesn't want you to have power to give you power. If you want power, you do things like you file lawsuits, establish corporations, you establish your own media corporations, and you buy airtime and you buy commercial time. That's what the players don't do. They're not, even though they can be effective media corporations if they organize, because they don't organize as media corporations, well, they get what they get. They get organized public relations efforts against them. That's what you see. Okay? That's what's going on. And that's what the players are. So, let's see here. Jamal Mills says, it makes no sense, Big Eightful. The thing about patriotism is freedom of speech, not that you stand or put your heart. It's about rights, period. That's what the Constitution is about, rights. It's been a game. He says, how do you expect someone to stand because they are told to when the flag does not represent them? Well, I stand. I always stand for the anthem. I stood all the time, okay? But to show you how stupid people are, it's like there was some woman, white, who was looking at me like with pride and all this. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Here I am, 55 years old. I've stood for the anthem all the time, but I defend anyone else who chooses not to, and I have since I was a teenager. I repeat, I have since I was a teenager. I will say that one more time, I had since I was a teenager. And yet, she is going to look at me with pride because she has been stupid enough to follow the media and all the messages it's putting out. I mean, give me a break. Jeez. What an awful tableau. Oh. Yeah, serious, okay? And it coincides with, Bennett says it coincides with what I'm saying. Yeah, thank you. And David Noah says, perhaps black people should live around black people and white should live around white people and just separate. But David, it's too late. We're all thoroughly mixed up. And as a number of people have said, I think, and I believe this, I believe that's why we're seeing some of the divisions we have, because there are people who cannot handle the interracial society, and that is hyper interracial, that is before them, to where you have people who are part Asian, part black, part Latino, part, President Obama, who was, the perfect example of what I'm talking about. And we have this full flowering of this constant mating of people without regard for color and with every regard for lust, okay? And so, finally, woohoo, okay? So, all right, that's like, ding, it's a great thing, okay? But some people can't handle that because they were taught that, people should be separate. But even at the point when that message was being sent out, going back to the 20th century and the 19th century and all that stuff, guess what? Folks who didn't look like each other by skin were still hooking up then too. Okay? So, now the taboo is, the taboo has come down and we're out there, and now the kids are there, the kids are grown. And then you have guys that in the past thought that they could get that girl, they see that girl with somebody that doesn't look like them and they get pissed off. Okay? I mean, forgetting for the moment that maybe they don't have any game. Just saying. All right? So that's where we come from. So all this idea of, oh, maybe they should separate. You know what? You know what? That issue was gone a long time ago. Really was. So, Poor T says, Zinni, assuming that someone is racist means you're a racist. No, that's not true, Paul. And that is the classic attempt to try to shut someone down for talking about race. And it's vile, and it's ridiculous, and it's stupid. Now, if you don't consider yourself vile, ridiculous, and stupid, don't do it again. All right? Because in order to stop racism, you have to point it out. If you don't like that I'm pointing it out, you can shuffle off the buffalo. But I'm going to point it out. Okay? Now, Big April says, I know Jamal, common sense isn't so common, man. Ding! Bennett says, David, a microcosm of oppression. Jamal Miller says, every amendment says you have the right. Heck, it's under the Bill of Rights. That's right. Harry Dunn says, don't you think that Lynch is somewhat hypocritical for standing for the Mexican anthem that has made a notorious reputation for corruption, police, and justices? I said this the other night, Harry. I don't think you were here. Maybe you forgot that I said it. I didn't agree with what Marshawn did, okay? But I don't agree with Trump doing what he did either, okay? And I'm not angry with Marshawn for doing it. I didn't make a separate video saying, hey, Marshawn, yada, yada, yada. I understand that for Marshawn's thinking, it's this. Hey, look, we have a problem in my country. I don't know about Mexico. That's what Marshawn would say. And from that perspective, from that coldly, brutally honest perspective, he's right. He's right. He doesn't live in Mexico. He wants America to be better. Okay? And so he's guests. He's the guest in a country not his own. So out of respect for the country, he stands for the anthem. I get that. I get that. I completely get that. Does that mean I would have done it? No. Just like when I go to a football game, I stand for the anthem. But do I defend those who do not? Yes, I do. That's their choice. This is my choice. You have to be able to hold. If you're going to survive in this society the way it's changing, you have to be able to hold two seemingly conflicting ideas in your mind at the same time. Okay? That's it. So, Ken Cruz says, if Lynch is right, he's right, but his boss relies on him to play a football game. But Karen, you just, ugh, you do that logical inconsistency thing again. It's always a logical inconsistency. In other words, okay, Lynch is right, but that's got about the anthem thing. That's got nothing to do with playing football. If he's right, leave him alone, let him play football. It goes back to what I'm saying again. If you like football, let the players be happy so they can do what they do, playing football better. Okay? John Mark says, great John Mark says the Corn Junction's coming soon. Jamal Mills says he played a football game. And so, Akuma says, stop deleting my free speech. All I said was, I feel like somebody is in some way racist at some point in their life. And I don't know, when you say that, you mean, you know, I mean, I think when you say that, I have to ask what you mean. Okay, so that's, I don't get that. I mean, it's easy to say, but then when you start thinking through it, it's like, huh? Yeah, Marshawn did play. John Marks, how are you? And Jamal Mills says, Akumi made a statement that is not true. Correct. And the law office of John Marks. And let's see here. Jimmy says, Zinni, can I ask you something? I think you've done so already. M.L. Scott says, the kneeling is to bring awareness to the injustices, not disrespect police, vets, or the country. Stop reading into it and adding your own narrative. And Paul G says he's saying everyone has done something racist once in their life. I don't believe that. I mean, I think it's more appropriate to say that everyone has done something that someone else may perceive as racist at some point in life. That I agree with. But to ascribe intent of being racist is different. But that's another conversation. And I don't see where that fits in here. Rob Ryman says, Donald Trump is trying to send America back to the 50s. Ding! 831 Scott said, Marshawn shouldn't be a Raider. Latavius Murray should have still been with the team. Did you see what he did for the Vikings this week? Marshawn is washed up. And I don't think Marshawn is washed up. I think Marshawn is in the wrong kind of system. We talked about that before, if you remember. Latavius Murray, you know, I favored the Raiders going after, like, a running back in the draft. You know, it could have been a Delvin or, you know, or I think Delvin would have been a great fit for the Raiders who've been around then. Because the Raiders don't have that slasher. They don't have a young, fast slasher. Even somebody like Christian McCaffrey, who, you know, would have been fantastic with the Raiders. They don't have that slasher back. Take the ball. Next you know, it's like 8 yards. 12 yards, first down. 15 yards, first down. 20 yards, touchdown. You know what I mean? They don't have that back. Marshawn Lynch is, well, if you need 5, I can get you 3. If you need 1, I can get you 3. You know, he's like Jim Brown like that, okay? You have to feed him the ball. You're going to get yards from Marshawn Lynch more often than not, particularly if you put him in the right set of plays. The Raiders have not done that. And there was one play they put him in. Oh, God, what a stinker of a play. Boy, oh, boy. Dave Compton says, how can taking a knee... It's funny how we went from... And this is nice to follow this. We went from Kim Norton to the whole protest thing again, okay? As opposed to talking about Ken Norton and his future, or to what extent, what John Pagano is going to do for the Raider defense. So I'll throw in what I think that John Pagano is going to do for the Raider defense. I think he's going to screw it up because the action was a shock to the system of players. The communication locker room is going to be different. They already feel that the season is lost, and now they've lost their leader. And the guy that's replacing him, you know, they're not used to him in that role. They don't quite know what to do with this guy. And it's the middle of the season. Oh, and it's the middle of the season. So that has disaster spelled all over it. The only possible solace the Raiders have is that this is Paxton Lynch's first start in an offense that is new for him. Okay. So, who did I miss? Big April says Reggie McKenzie needs to be fired. And Jimmy says, in your recent video, did you say, why do they have to be white guys when they were asking about coaches? Do you think it's a little bit racist? No. Being racist is putting something down because they are a thing. Being race conscious is not being racist. If I say, hey, you know, I like athletic, Latino, Asian, white, black girls. All right. I've laid out a race-conscious point of view of of a preference I would have. Race conscious. But to mention race is not racist. That's where, and look, society has gotten it screwed up. And it's because when media started to expand into cable and grew in the 80s, and we had the first, arguably, quickly, widely broadcast discussions of race, and then we had Rodney King and everything else, there was a term, the race card. And that was developed during the Reagan administration, just tail end of 1984. Started being widely used. It's like, oh, you're playing the race card. It was to diminish the discussion of a race from a black person's point of view. To not take their point of view seriously. Okay. And so the latest iteration of that is this, I call it false equivalence. To talk about race is in and of itself racist. That's the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard. It just is. All right. So, Jamal Smith says, freedom. The flag was created in 1777. Slavery was abolished in 1865, Karen. Thank you. And Karen says she's been something for being an American Indian. Big April says Reggie McKenzie needs to be fired. And John Mark says Native Americans miss Karen. And it says, I bow to you, sir. Okay. I bow to you. Karen Christian says, I've also been called racial names in Sacramento, where I lived in a hood known as Oak Park. Okay. Acuna says some parts of Africa still have slaves, and there are slaves in America and all over, sadly. Crawford, meanwhile, reminds us that Harbaugh ain't leaving Michigan. Back to football. Yeah, Jim Harbaugh would be a lousy choice for the Raiders. I'm just not sold on Harbaugh. I'm not. Jim Harbaugh is as good as his coordinators. David Noam says, technically America didn't exist until it was created as an abstract political entity by whites. Karen Christensen, well, I don't know about that. America existed. I think the American Indians would have a different say about that. Just because a person violates and takes over another person doesn't make them great. I think we've evolved enough to know that by now. At least I hope so. At least I hope you realize that, because if you advocate that sort of thing, you know, look, there are people who would be concerned about your intentions. So Karen Christian says, I was called terrible names for looking white, even though I am half white. And Rob Iman says, I think Bruce Irvin is going to be traded the offseason. I doubt that. Bruce Irvin is not going anywhere. Unless he asks to be traded. Kevin KD says he probably fired Ken Norton Jr. to save himself. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. That gets back to what I'm saying. Mark Dave, I mean, that's why I have a real problem with this, because Jack Del Rio set up Ken Norton Jr. to fail. He let it be known that Ken Norton Jr. was his puppet. Then he brought in John Pagano to look over Ken Norton Jr.'s shoulder. And then when Mark Davis cried and said get rid of him, instead of Ken Norton Jr. staying because his head coach said, I'm defending you, he capitulated. He said, fine, I'll do it. To save himself. He should have stared Mark Davis in the eye and said, you know what? If he goes, I go. Because if that happened, you would have had a major collapse mid-season. That's it. That's it. Corey Brown says, we all need today's version of Marcus Allen. Yeah. And so, what else here? Let's see here. We've got Karen Christensen. He says, so how come no one stands up for people who look or are white or call racist things? That's BS. I don't accept that. I mean, I way don't accept that. Okay? And Karen, again, you have a selective memory. In fact, I know for a fact that you do, so I'm going to say right here, stop lying. You're not going to like that I'm saying it to you, but I'm saying it. Stop lying. You know what you're saying isn't true. I mean, you know yourself that's not true. Okay? Purely. All right? Purely. Okay? John Mark says, Jack Del Rio must go. Big April says, they do not stand up for them, Karen. They are called Fox News. But Karen knows doggone well there are people who stand up for anybody who is being violated or being treated in a racist way, regardless of color. Okay? To the point where, and see, Karen, the reason why I said is there's a pattern here. First of all, you do tend to jump in whenever there's a race conversation. You could elect to stay out. You don't see bossmen here, all right? I'm just saying, okay? I'm just saying. You come in here. Then, it's always the same pattern of expressing a point of view that's classically like, hey, those black athletes should know their place. And then you get set up when someone disagrees with you. And then you point out that you say someone has treated you in a way that was racist in the past. And then claim that no one came to your defense, which I really do not believe. At all. Okay? At all. I'm not saying I don't believe that happened to you. I do believe that. Because I came to my friend Henry's defense in 1967 when other kids were calling him racist. This is 1967. See, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67. I was 7 years old, all right? And, yeah, I had to count, just make sure. And Henry, this was during the era of white flight from the Chicago south to the suburbs. And Henry lived next door to us. We were at 7908B South Kimbark. He was at 7910 Kimbark House, all right? And got along with Henry really well. I didn't see what the issue was. Kids made fun of Henry. I didn't. I always came to Henry's defense. I had never had a truck with Henry. So, Karen, when you say comments like that, that's why I know there was some other Zinni out there that came to your defense. You just didn't want to acknowledge that person. That's my point. So, let's see here. Jimmy says, why don't you admit that Ken Norton was a bad coach? Because he wasn't a bad coach. He did what Jack Del Rio asked him to do. I mean, why don't you admit that Jack Del Rio was a bad teacher? If you can admit that Jack Del Rio was a bad teacher and didn't stand behind his student, okay, then you have to admit that Ken Norton Jr. was made to be a bad coach by his teacher. Jack Del Rio was his teacher. I mean, what part of that do you not understand? It's documented. It's documented, okay? It's documented, all right? And then here Jimmy says it makes absolutely no sense. You know what? Stop asking me questions, because now you're pissing me off. I mean, that's documented. In fact, you know what? You say that makes no sense? Get out of here. I'm not even going to waste my time. I mean, and the reason I'm not going to waste my time is because this is written. Levi Damien had the article. I showed it before. And you're going to say it makes absolutely no sense that the head coach who said he brought him in and he's actually grooming him. And you're going to tell me that he says he's grooming him and yet he's not responsible for teaching him? I mean, what is wrong with you? And I'm supposed to listen to that or repeat that here? I'm not going to repeat that here. There are better, more common sense comments rolling up past you all the time. This is ridiculous. All right? I'm tired of this. Completely timed. I'm just tired. All right? Okay? And it's not that you're not allowed to disagree. Make sense. If you're going to be here and be a Zenster, make sense. You wouldn't be the first person I kicked out of here for that. That I don't allow. Okay? I disagree with Karen Christensen, but she makes sense. In a way. Okay? Plus, I like sparring with Karen. But anyway, all right? All right? So, my point is this, all right? There. Rick O'Flair says, which mark would clean house at the end of the season? Carr needs to play up to that $125 million. Thank you. And Seth Grogan says, coordinators always get let go before head coaches. Melvin Lovejoy says that. Rob Iman says, Raiders just need to get to 8-8 at this point. But will they? That's my question to you. Will they? That's my question to you. Will they get to 8-8? Yeah, my answer is, I think we're staring at 7-9. I really believe we're staring at 7-9. And Kevin KD, John Mark says no. Kevin KD says Rob Iman, professional pride is at stake with 8-8 record. Big Apple says, John, do you see them going 10-6? That's running the table. Seth Grogan says Del Rio won't get let go because Mark can't afford to pay Del Rio to go away with a new coach. John Mark says try 6-10. That's in the offing. But yeah, I can't see the Raiders at 6-10. I can't. Because that would mean they wouldn't have won another game. Unless there's a full-scale revolt among the players where they just decide that, okay, between Carr not taking a knee with the offensive line folks and now this action, the black players feel like the white folks, are not siding with them. And so they sort of just fall flat. I do see that as a possibility. And having said that, yeah, 6-10 could very well be in the offing. It could be. As Donald Richardson said in bold letters, I don't see us winning another game. Kevin KD says, I think they beat the Giants and Cowboys in one more division game. I can't see them beating the Giants. Rick O'Flair says, I like the kid Barkley out of Penn State. 7-9 is realistic. Iman says, if Downing can make the right adjustments. And see, my problem isn't with Downing's adjustments. It's the play design. The plays are not adjustable. They lack sight reads. Hey, guys covering you on the inside. Don't run that slant. You're running a slant anyway. That sort of thing. Run the fly pattern. Or maybe a, 15-yard back shoulder fade, Or maybe a 15-yard hook. Or, you see what I'm getting at? It's not complicated. I think David Shaw, and there's a name, okay, but David Shaw is not going to part ways with Stanford. Unless you throw a whole lot. I mean, you'd have to throw enough money at David Shaw to make him a billionaire. I think only under those circumstances does he get away from the farm. David Shaw is an awesome coach who would be terrific at the NFL level with the Raiders. Okay. Michael Fair says, where's North Turner? Crawford says, hopefully Mark Davis will get out of his Las Vegas trance. Ugh. Seth Grogan says, Carr is not making his progressions. He locks in on his target. He does. Yes, Seth, he does do that. He really locks in. And you can sit there, he's like, Rrr. I mean, Rrr. You know, it's almost like Frankenstein. Like, you know, hey, move. Move in the pocket. Rrr. 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 Ooh. You know? Jeez. And that's coaching. That's the system. I mean, I can make fun of him looking like Frankenstein. Right? But, jeez. Man. Don Wishes still wants Josh McDaniels as head coach or offensive coordinator. Karen Crew says, oops, Chargers could be the AFC West winner at this rate the season is going. Yeah, that's true, Karen. In fact, Kevin KD says Frankenstein comparison. I was like laughing. You know, that's what he looks like, you know. I mean, he's got that, you know, that brow ridge, you know. I got a brow ridge too. Derek Carr's got that brow ridge, you know. It's like, rrr. So I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Oh my gosh. Oh, as head coach? You know, why not? I mean, no, my only thought with McDaniels as head coach is who do we get as offensive coordinator? And I'm not entirely sold with his play design separate from the Patriots. I've seen it before, and it doesn't translate. Karen Christian says she likes Derek Carr. He doesn't think it's the problem. But Karen, again, I ask you, separate how you feel about a player from the techniques of what the player does. Derek Carr has a problem. He's missed a lot of wide open receivers, particularly last game. So there's a problem there. All right. Mike McCoy would probably be McDaniels. I'll tell you who I favor. I would like to see the Raiders hire as head coach, who I believe would bring the Raiders back to their true deep throwing staple, but expressed in a modern way. Okay? Not the deep throwing staple expressed in the 70s way as Tom Walsh tried to do, you know, toward the just in 2007 after the start of the 21st century. You know who that person would be? Texas A&M's head coach, Kevin Sumlin. That's right. Kevin Sumlin. Yeah. Kevin Sumlin. I could even see bringing in Sonny Dykes for offensive coordinator, installing some of, well, no, not even Sonny Dykes. No, Tony Franklin. Tony Franklin! Tony Franklin's the guy that the Raiders should bring in as offensive coordinator next year. He would put Tony Franklin, Google name, Tony Franklin, Eastern Kentucky, Tony Franklin, Cal Bears. Tony Franklin's system would cure the Raiders' offensive woes like that. I'm telling you. I'm a member of his email list. I swear by what Tony Franklin does to a degree because I have my own ideas. But Tony Franklin's constant aggressive, no huddle, but sight adjustment, modern run and shoot style has been effective everywhere it has been used. Tony Franklin should be brought into the NFL. It's high time. It really is. So, Tony Franklin. Yeah, Tony Franklin. I mean, Tony Franklin, it's, wow. Big April says, okay, in fact, I don't know how, let's see what's going on with Tony Franklin. I haven't looked up anything about Mr. Franklin in a while. He left Cal and to go to Eastern Kentucky, and as offensive coordinator, okay, and He was rehired. Yeah, he was there and he was rehired. Let me see what the latest news is. The mastermind behind high school football's top offense. Let's see here. Oh, that's interesting. This guy is a... okay. A girls basketball coach. Interesting. Don't see anything about Tony Franklin lately. Trying to see if what he's doing, how he's doing. Let's see here. Coaching career. He is still at, right now he's at, I said he was Eastern Kentucky. No, he's at Middle Tennessee State University. Yeah. So he went to, he was at Kentucky, then Lexington, then Troy, Auburn. 2009, he went to Middle Tennessee State, then Louisiana Tech, then Cal, then went back to Middle Tennessee State University. So, and he's done he did an incredible job with Middle Tennessee State. Just has done a fantastic job with Middle Tennessee State University. But his system has not been given the NFL treatment as of yet, okay? And in fact, it just gives me an idea about something I'm going to do. And he's 60 years old. He's kind of a mad scientist, okay? He made a lateral move to be closer to his parents. Sound familiar? But yeah, Tony Franklin's the guy. Tony Franklin's the guy. I really believe Tony Franklin would turn the Raiders offense around. Really would. So, there it is, Tony Franklin. Okay. Google Tony Franklin, Middle Tennessee State University. Maybe I'll put down this Google thing, okay? Right here. And there's Tony Franklin right there. Info. There it is. Okay? There it is. Yeah, Donald Rich says, I can't wait to see their games on YouTube. Yeah, and not only that, Middle Tennessee State had a particularly scintillating game very recently. Upset. If you type Middle Tennessee State upset football, okay? Furball. I wrote furball, all right? Let's see here. Middle Tennessee State pulls off stunning upset of Michigan. That's right. Middle Tennessee State pulls off stunning upset of Michigan, but that was in basketball. Let's see here. There was Middle Tennessee State football. Let's see here. Middle Tennessee State football. And, yeah, here he goes. Yeah, Middle Tennessee State upset Syracuse. And the same Syracuse football team that later beat Clemson. So there's an article in the Daily Orange about that. It says, the final word, beat writers discuss Middle Tennessee State's upset over Syracuse. And they won 30-23. Excuse me. Yeah, 30-23. And they were talking about this on a podcast. So there. Now remember, they upset, that small little school upset, because of Tony Franklin's offense, upset. And the defense from the former Syracuse head coach who was running defense in Middle Tennessee State, beat them. Okay? So my point is coaching, good coaching means the difference between wins and losses regardless of talent. Syracuse has far better talent than Middle Tennessee State University. Yet Middle Tennessee State University won 30-23. Tony Franklin, part of that. Okay. So, and Domrich says Doug Williams should be coaching the NFL if he wants to, because he's actually director of player personnel. I don't see Doug Williams as head coach. I see Doug Williams as an administrator. I see Doug Williams as a general manager type. Okay. But as a head coach, I can't see him being successful at that. I think it would be a misuse of his talent to put him there. Bernard says, how about Hugh Jackson comes back for OC? I think Hugh Jackson makes a great offensive coordinator. I really do, okay? George Atkins says, owner says Crawford, yeah. And Kung Lao says, Bill Momanowski has a lot of heart. He ain't afraid to tell our players how it is when they need to be told something. Yeah, but here's the point, Kung Lao. I don't think that kind of noise is what players today want. Excuse me. I know it isn't. I mean, that old idea of, the coach yelling at the player and grabbing him by the face mask, it doesn't fly anymore, and the NFL can actually get you fired. So you don't want that. You don't want a coach that's going to turn around and getting in fights with his players. Because that's what would happen. Steve Smith would not put up with that. As one example. Okay. Karen Chris says, get rid of Mark Davis. Finally, somebody says, hey, Mark, Kung Lao got that one. And Big Apple says, Al Davis will come back to life and re-die if Marcus Allen became owner of the Raiders. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Kevin Kitty says, Zinni, exactly. Romanowski is too old-fashioned, and he's, kind of a monster, not in a good way. And he has a reputation among some that's, that some people think he's racist, okay? And remember the whole spitting incident with Jerry Rice and everything? So you bring him back in that fold, and you bring up those demons again. And so Otis B says, plus the guy is a steroids freak. Well, I don't know if there's too much wrong with that. But anyway, okay. Is performance enhancing fine. Steroids. Romanowski is a rah-rah guy, no experience in coaching, says Bernard. Crawford 371 says, LeVar Ball is owner. Sean Grogan says, J.J. Stokes. Karen Kuchar says, I think Al Davis would be upset if he saw how Mark is running things with his Raiders. Yeah, I think so, too. I think so. Reverend Ledger says, Zinni, my pick is Tony Romo for offensive coordinator. The way he calls the games is spot on. It would be interesting. Tony Romo has a naturally expressed intellect for the game that I find a joy to listen to. I mean, as a color guy. Like, Mike Mayock, God love him. Mike on the NFL Network and on, I think, Notre Dame occasionally gets caught up in, how should I put it? He gets caught up in nomenclature pedantry. What do I mean by that? That means that he uses a lot of coaching jargon, and then he explains a lot using that jargon. And if you don't know that jargon, you're going to more than likely say, huh, what? Or you're going to tune him out and just watch the game. Like, for example, he'll say, well, okay, guard had the full block here against the 3 technique and the 5 technique here. And, all right, well, they'll trap block the 5 technique on, and the 5 technique was running a slant. Okay, my point is to stop right there. That's enough. A lot of people don't know what that means. Whereas Tony Romo will just say, well, hey, you've got this great defensive tackle here, and he's coming in, and they can't block him well. Normally, so they brought this guard over to block him from the side. We call that a trap. And the running back went through and he scored a touchdown. You understand the difference? Mayock, nomenclature, Romo, just plain English. And Romo played the game. Okay. and may not played the game too, but years before. But Mike gets really stuck in this jargon, and it's like, whoa, dude, put on the brakes, dude. You know. Crawford says Jim Schwartz is defensive coordinator. Jimmy 994 says Tony Romo is an amazing commentator. Yep. And Karen Christensen says, I was surprised at how well Tony Romo is at broadcasting. And Don Richard says, do you think Hugh Jackson would come back to coach the offense? The Browns firing him? They haven't fired him. They haven't fired him. Sean Grogan's dream coaching staff. Jim Harbaugh, head coach. Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator, and the Eagles' offensive coordinator as our own. That will never happen, though. My dream coaching staff would be Kevin Sumlin as head coach from Texas, Tony Franklin as offensive coordinator, and Mel Tucker as defensive coordinator. That would form the basis for a record-setting offense, not just for the Raiders, but the NFL. That offense would be frightening. I'm telling you, it would be completely freaking fucking scary. People would talk about the Raiders of old and how this was the second coming of the Raider offense of the 60s, but modernized. And then they would say, well, it really proves that the Tony Franklin system can work at the pro level. Oh, they would say all that stuff, okay? All that stuff. To deal with the fact that the Raiders are just basically scoring points like a pinball machine. That's what would happen. That's exactly what would happen. I'm telling you. You would not be ready to see that kind of offense. It would shock you. It would shock you. Bob Iman says, these are times when Collinsworth gets on my nerves. Karen Christian says, like Collinsworth sure knows a lot. And I've learned a lot from listening to him. He does know a lot. He's also a plain-spoken guy. Rick LaFleur says, Raiders won't be on primetime next season thanks to Durrell and staff. Kevin KD says, Rob, I actually like Chris Collinsworth. And, yeah, Cleveland Browns are just... David Compton says, the Raiders need to bring in one of the ex-Raider players from the 70s to coach, to bring back the Raider image. The Raider image. Sean Grogan says, was it true that the Niners wouldn't let Harbaugh go if he ended up with the Raiders? Thought I read that. Did you hear that? Well, let's check that right now. Let's check that right now, okay? Let's check that right now. Sean Grogan. Raiders on primetime next season? Once, yeah. Never, no. Because of the Raiders. The Raiders are too good at ratings draw. Let's see here. Your question had to do with... yeah, I should consider going to bed soon. Let's see here. So, like, speaking of which... I am off. It's 2:24 in the morning. Ooh, boy. No wonder. My clock is on 11:24. I thought it's 11:24 Eastern? Nah. All right. I better think about shoving off to Buffalo soon. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see here. Oh, cool. Thank you. Mike Tirico's done well. Bernard wants Hugh Jackson for OC if he gets fired. Crawford says Al Michaels might as well call it quit. Might call it quits this season. That would be too bad. Al Michaels is royalty. Just as Brent Musburger was royalty. Just as Vin Scully was royalty, you know, in baseball. And then you had Keith, called the great college football games. Keith Jackson. Keith Jackson was royalty. Lots of royalty. Lots of royalty. And Rick LaFleur says, Reggie gave Hugh his pink slip. Can they mend the fence? No, I doubt. I wish I could say that they could, but no. Bernard, I'm not sold on Gruden as a head coach anymore. I'm just not. I am sold on Kevin Sumlin as a coach for the Raiders that I really think should be given the job with Tony Franklin as offensive coordinator. Kevin Sumlin is head coach, Tony Franklin offensive coordinator, Mel Tucker defensive coordinator. There it is. There it is, okay? There it is. Karen Creasy says, didn't Madden, wait a minute. Don Richardson says, what we would need to revamp our line to do what I just see Middle Tennessee saying, our boys are too fat for all that pulling. Yeah, well, it's a stand-up type of, it's called vertical set blocking. And let me show you all what Mr. Richardson is talking about, because it's worth, let's see, 2017. It's worth a look, all right? And I'll show you. Let's see here. Vanderbilt, let's see, Middle Tennessee State. Vanderbilt shut them down. They only scored 6 points against Vanderbilt. Wow. That's shocking. That's shocking. Let me see something here. Try this again. Middle Tennessee State football. Passing. Let's see here. Numbers. Still trying to find something that is exemplary. Blue Raiders. Maybe 2016. Hold on a second. Okay. Western Kentucky. Nope. Middle Tennessee, that's Western Michigan. Nope. Florida National. Nope. Let's see here. Nope. Middle Tennessee State. Tony Franklin. There. Let's see here. This is Franklin discussing the drag concept. That's a bit too technical, so I'm gonna leave that alone for this. And I think I'll go to what he did at Cal, because I have more tape on that. Well, wait a minute. Tony Franklin, 2017. And here, okay. Like this. All right. Let's see here. Let's see here. I got clobbered that one, so that's not a good example. Let's see here. Middle Tennessee State's no huddle spread offense is an icebreaker with recruits. I think this is worth hearing if you have a chance. This thing's buffering, so I won't bother. Okay. That's not going to do it. All right, look. I think I'll go here. YouTube. In the Middle Tennessee State. Middle. Oops. Not. Now it's slow. Yeah, it's too slow. Sorry. It's too slow. Okay. Anyway, I was trying to find the right video to show you guys. The trouble is that when you search for the right video on Google, what you get are videos. They aren't really videos, they're pages. And Middle Tennessee football. They're pages of articles with a video in them that sometimes plays and sometimes doesn't. Okay, here we go. Middle Tennessee State versus Syracuse football highlights. Okay. And 3, 2, 1. Skip ad. Watch this. There. Okay. That's Middle Tennessee State. See how? Now, got batted by Syracuse. Covered lateral. These are highlights, so let's see if we can find. But see here, stop here. This is what he's talking about as far as the offense. The offense is a vertical set from the start. See that? Oops. Excuse me for a second. This is against Bowling Green. And that's Bowling Green itself. And let's see here if we can move forward. There we go. Hold on a second. See this? Look. See how the line stands up? That's vertical set passing, pass blocking. It's vertical set blocking, which they also use for the run. Let's watch it in action. Okay? Recognize that? Fake? All right. And they go no huddle like this, okay? And look at that. See that? Everything is quick. And see again? Well, they do pull. See that? That's a tackle pulling all the way around to lead the running back. But note, they always stand up. Okay, that's a taste of the system. That's a taste of that system, okay? Texas A&M plays it. But the difference between the A&M system and the Franklin system is that A&M has a wider variety of plays out of a greater number of formations. And Franklin really uses unbalanced line sets, whereas A&M does not. That's why I say having Kemlin Sumlin as head coach and Franklin as offensive coordinator being the mating of two great offensive minds for the Raiders with proven defensive coordinator Mel Tucker as the DC. All right. Let's see here. Rice says, are you a football coach? Football strategy is my hobby. Rick Rice says, Rick Rice, where have you been? He said, they fired Ken Norton Jr. Should have done it before the season. Now maybe we'd be in the playoffs hunt right now. No. No. Bernard says, is Downing doing something different than how? That's how supposedly he wants to run the offense. He's not doing a real huddle like that. He's not doing it at all. The system that Tony Franklin runs is a constant no huddle. They don't huddle. It's down the field. Bing, bing, bing. Same with A&M. They don't huddle. Okay. Rick Rice, you the man. Big A-Full, I'll see you, Big A-Full. Sorry, I missed that one. See ya. Oh, and Don Wishes had this particular video you wanted me to look at, so I just clicked on it. I can't show it from there, so I have to go back. Okay, I see what you're getting at. But I see what you're getting at. I went there already. Let's see here. Karen Christian says, Rick, I agree with you. We're right about firing him. Pagano was there to learn the system before taking over. Pagano has a different voice. You guys are just completely wrong. Andrew says, is Jono gone for good? No. Bernard says, but Chip Kelly has tried that. Oh, Chip Kelly tried what? Jimmy says, Zinni, how can you call them wrong? Who wrong? Jimmy, all right, I'm not going to go through this with you again. I am not. Okay? At all. Okay? All right, so, that's, Bernard says the whole no huddle thing. Oh, well, it's not the whole no huddle thing. It's what you do out of the whole no huddle thing. And the whole point is to continue to put pressure on the defense. What Tony Franklin's system does is everything is push, push, push. It's throw the ball downfield. When they run the ball, the running is not lateral. It's running the ball here, faking it this way. If it's anything, well, it in the Cal parlance, it was lateral. We had a play that would call for a handoff this way, and you throw it back that way. In fact, let me show you my classic video. And yeah, it is a classic video, because others have referred to it, about the Cal offense, vertical set blocking, okay, here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's innovative vertical set blocking video, and vertical off Zinni 62 there. No. Cal vertical set. Vertical set. Rare. Try this another way. A little frustrating. We can't find exactly what you want. Cal buried offense, innovative vertical set blocking. Zinni 62 on YouTube. There it is. That's my video. Right here. And it will not. There it goes. Okay. I went to the Cal spring game Saturday to see what the have a look. Wanted air raid attack looks like, and I came away both impressed and concerned. First of all, this video is more about the scheme. It's not about the injuries. Not about the injuries or anything else. With that, here's my introduction to the offense. Basically, you're going to see the ball in the air quite a bit. The concern I have, however, is more born of the style of offensive blocking. On many of the run plays, the running back was basically stuffed for a loss many times, and that's because on those plays it came out of what's called package concept. That is basically two types of plays within one play. For example, Cal will line up more often than not in a 4 or 3 wide receiver set, but look at the offensive line. It's always poised as if it's going to pass block. But not only that, the offensive line starts about a yard behind the center in a pass set. In other words, they're not down on threes as if they're going to run block, and they will actually run block out of a pass set, like a draw play, more often than not. So the quarterback has the option of either handing it off on a run play, which goes to off tackle, or not handing off, pulling the ball out of the running back's belly, and then throwing to the opposite side. Executed well, that play is going to be that set of plays rather, is going to be very, very devastating. But there's a catch. If the receiver that the quarterback is aiming after is not open, the defensive line is going to collapse around the quarterback faster. Why? Because the offensive line already starts off, more often than not, in these package plays, a yard behind the center, roughly a yard behind the center, and then they retreat another yard. So that's 2 yards they're giving up to the defense, and all a good defender has to do, since Cal's offensive lineman plays so high, is basically play a low leverage up move technique like this and rip through straight to the quarterback. I saw that happen more often than not on Saturday. So that's my center of concern. I'm not concerned with the pass patterns or the amount of time the quarterback takes to get rid of the ball, which more often than not isn't much. That's promising. But it's this offensive line design in terms of their technique that I'm really concerned about. Having said that, I think this offense is going to be very exciting, and I am going to give Coach Dykes and his crew the benefit of the doubt for now and say that they seem to be on the right track, but I really am concerned about that offensive line design and technique. That is something I think is going to get Cal quarterbacks really hurt if they don't straighten that out to eliminate that fast collapse pass pocket problem. With that, I say go Bears. And as Cal evolved in its use of that system, that Tony Franklin installed all that. And as Cal evolved in its use of that system, they did get better blocking that way. And that method of blocking is now all over the league. It's at Kentucky. You saw it used at Bowling Green. Of course, Middle Tennessee State uses it. Texas A&M employs it. Washington State employs it. So those are just some of the organizations that employ vertical set blocking. And you have players like Luke Jokel, who's with the Falcons, who also came up in that system, who know how to block vertical set. And the Denver Broncos, or Mike McCoy, used vertical set blocking quite a bit. And that was at the forefront of some of their more successful plays during their 3-1 opening start to open the season. So it's not uncommon, that blocking style you saw. And now it's, in terms of how it's coached and how players train to do it, it's more advanced than it was then. So yeah. So anyway, so that's what I favor. Anyway, so Karen Christian says, let's see here. Let's see. Hey, Crawford says I'll make a great studio analyst. Thanks, I appreciate that. Thank you. And hey, Sean, good night. And as Karen Christian points out, that's correct. We are debating issues, and we're not always going to agree with everyone all the time. That's right. Yeah, sometimes we disagree. Andrew says we need to learn about the Wildcat. Khalil Mack says, hello, everybody. Mick Rice says, and go for it on 4th down every time. And statistically, actually, there's a paper that justifies that approach. There really is. I'm going to find that. And John Mark says, Denver Donkeys, hee-hee-haw. And Rick Rice says, all onsides kicks. Carl Lynch with a great pay flick. All right, so it is now almost 3 in the morning. And let's see here. What else? Rick Rice says, holy smokes, Zinni is old, to which I say, holy smokes, you're a kid. I'd rather be old than a kid. David Kimmons says, "Hey, Mr. Z, always enjoy your show. Good night. Keep up the good work. You're Mr. Answer Man." David, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Rick Rice claims that Bruce Irvin was born angry. No, he wasn't. Bruce Irvin was right. And just completely right. Andrew says, what happened to Blackjack Del Rio? We need to start taking chances at this point in the year with the same fearlessness we had last season. Yeah, it's just, geez, not there. Harry Dunn says, regardless of DC, they need better players in the front seven. Matt can't do it all. I think they've got great players in the front seven. Again, look, how many times do we have to talk about the problem being technique? They come off the ball too high. They still do it. That's coaching. That's your head coach. Okay? That's your head coach. Yeah. All right. Rick Rice says Irwin's always angry in his own interviews. He's a linebacker. What do you expect? Jeez. But he's right, though. And I'm glad he expressed himself that way. Max says, hey, Zinni, how do you feel about Todd Bowles being a coach? Well, he is a coach. But you mean defensive coordinator for the Raiders? If he gets fired from the Jets, I think it's a great idea. If. In fact, let's see where we are. Having said that, NFL.com. NFL.com standings. Okay. We've got standings. I went over the AFC before. Well, I'll just go for it again, okay? Patriots are 8-2, Bills are 5-5, Dolphins are 4-6, Jets are 4-6. So arguably the Jets are in the hunt for a wild card spot because when you go to the AFC North, you've got the Ravens at 5-5, the Bengals at 4-6, the Browns at 0-10, and then you go look at the AFC South, and you've got the Jaguars at 7-3, the Tennessee Titans on their heels, the Houston Texans at 4-6, the Colts at 3-7. Then the West, you have Chiefs at 6-4, the Chargers at 4-6, the Raiders at 4-6, and the Broncos at 3-7. This Sunday game is critical because if the Broncos win, we'll put the Raiders at 4-7 with the Broncos. So this is critical. The Chiefs are 6-4. Big log jam. NFC East. Eagles are 9-1. Cowboys 5-5. Redskins 4-6. Giants are 2-8. But they're on a one-game win streak. The Vikings are 8-2. The Lions 6-4. The Packers 5-5. The Bears 3-7. The Saints are 8-2. The Panthers are 7-3. The Falcons are 6-4. The Buccaneers are 4-6. And they're on a two-game win streak. And Jameis Winston is innocent, by the way. Notice how you didn't hear anything about Jameis Winston when it was announced that there was actually, a discrepancy between what the driver claimed and what Uber itself claimed. Boy, oh boy. See, it's trying to nail the black guys. It's like, it's ridiculous. Just because. Man. NFC West team. Rams are 7-3. Seahawks are 6-4. The Falcons really put themselves back into the driver's seat with that one. The Falcons could have finished 12-4. They're playing ball like that. Cardinals are 4-6, and the Niners are 1-9. Ooh, but they're on a one-game winning streak. Don't look now. Don't look now. The Niners. Karen says, why do you think Rob Ryan is a DC since he's out of coaching? I saw him on Sky Channel. Yeah, I know. It's always these names. Ugh. Kevin KD says, Joseph Bensman, for the longest time, college football was terrible in terms of giving black players coaching opportunities. Yeah, I mean, come on, Joseph, you know that. Karen Christian says, Joseph, how can you say that with Tomlin and Jackson as coaches? Say what? Wait. Joseph Benson says, I think NFL, there's a race issue as far as head coaches. There is. Karen, you're not stupid enough to make that comment, are you? Seriously? So, like, tokenism is okay with you. You want to have, and this is what I'm talking about. This really pisses me off, okay? You want to have an NFL that has, like, all black players and basically almost no black head coaches. That doesn't bother you. All right, that's the kind of thing that just, that's why we have Hidden Figures. You ever see the hidden movie Hidden Figures? We had, it chronicled the role that black women played in the calculative foundations of our space launch, or what I've gone through in terms of coming up with a Raiders answer, the plan, and how I was treated. All right? Seriously? Okay. All right? Karen, she says, how am I wrong when there are black coaches? So, if you don't see how you're wrong, then you are immoral. And you're straight out immoral. Period. That is just, I mean, I'm sorry to say that. I know people have been, complimenting me, you feel great, but look, when someone like you writes that on my channel, that hurts. When you don't see that, and when people like me have been pained by that kind of point of view, I'm like, are you nuts? That's like saying that you got 100 men, and because you have 2 women, there's no sex. That's not being, you're not being sexist in their choices, okay? I mean, seriously, that's what that is, all right? Okay? All right? And Rick Rice, you're equally wrong. And we talked about your race issues too. So, all right? You're as immoral as she is. And being black, I don't care that you're black. One of my best friends, Michael McGuire, we had arguments like this all the time. Black. Laid him to rest at 48 years old. Rest in peace. Laid his dad to rest a few weeks ago. It doesn't mean that doesn't never stop me from telling him I thought he was full of it. But see, Michael, we had these conversations that were face to face. And he made the comments with a glint in his eye, which means that in his worst, when all the fur stopped flying, he knew that half of what he was saying was full of it, and it was just, for argument's sake. Okay? But when this person comes on social media and says, I'm black, and I'm like, I've never really met them. Right? I still take that with kind of a grain, I still take that with a grain of salt. Just saying. Okay? And Karen, I do think you're immoral when you express that. You are. Because you're an apologist for how things are. And how things are, many people regard as immoral. So how can you say you're not, and you rubber stamp a system that people regard as not moral? So straight out. Straight out. I am here to challenge your thinking. Oh, there you go. And Ethan says that I seem that everyone who disagrees with me is racist. No. But when you express something like that, there's a race issue. And remember, we are talking about race. So in this context, if you're disagreeing with me about this, you're disagreeing with me because you're expressing a point of view that is racist. So from that point of view, yeah, sure. Okay? But every time, if you're going to tell me that I say that you don't agree with me regarding vertical site blocking and therefore you're racist, that's stupid. So think about what you're saying. All right? Okay? David Nomas, what's wrong with racism? Huh. Seriously? Okay, that's stupid. All right? That's stupid. That's stupid. And Karen, I'm not the only one who's brought up color. Actually, you brought it up a bunch of times. Rick Rice says there are people that disagree with you. I think you might be wrong. No, I'm right. Well, then if you don't want to hear it, Ethan, then leave. I'm happy for you to go. Okay? Bye. Okay? Bye. Thanks, Joseph. Appreciate it. All right? Karen, coaching is about race. Andrew says, I think we can agree and disagree on a topic without bringing personal morality into it. No, we can't. If you rubber stamp a system that is immoral, you yourself are being immoral in approving that system. If you approve of slavery, which is immoral, then you are being immoral in your actions of approving a system that is not moral. That is logical. That is a logical consistency. Period. Okay? All right? Rick Rice says we need more Asian coaches than any. We need more Asian players. Rick, we don't have enough Asian players. We have a ton of black players and a few coaches, so it looks like, you know what it looks like. You're not stupid, but that take you're expressing is racist. And if you say you're black, that's worse, because you're being a person that rubber stamps a system that in point of fact keeps black people down. So you are being racist, and you're being self-hating. All right. Okay. Let's see what else next. Harry Dunn asked me, have I seen the affirmative action bake sale experiment? The bake sale experiment's stupid. Period. Okay? And let's see here. What else? And Eric Guerrero's right. Jack Del Rio should have fired himself. Jack Del Rio should have fired himself. He didn't. Jack Del Rio should have fired himself. And as Joseph Business said, did you see Trump defending Roy Moore today? Zinni pathetic, but once again, not a surprise. Yeah. Completely immoral, but hey, it's okay for him. Countries, you know, really, jeez Louise. Oh my God. Why? No. And Karen, stop bringing the we into it. I'm talking about you being racist. You are racist. Don't bring the we into it. I'm talking about you. You're racist. We've been through this again. You refuse to change. I'm pointing it out to you. Okay? Darkman says, Max stiff arms Von Miller. Actually, Jack Conklin, Khalil Mack should stiff arm Jack Conklin. And Karen, I'm not going to apologize. You are racist. You express ideas that are racist. Okay? And then you tell me as a person who's expressed his background and his experiences that I have no right to look at what you say through my own lens of my experiences and say you're being racist. And that's precisely what I'm doing. You are being racist. If you don't want to be regarded that way, then yeah, you need to change your view. It's that crystal clear, simple. Okay? Period. Okay. Andrew says, Zinni, I'm actually agree with you on this topic of black head coaches, but I don't think calling people immoral or racist that bring up an affirmative alternative point of view is being respectful. No, it's not. It's being direct. I'm not being nice about it, because we're talking about supporting a system that, first of all, denied people of color an education, is set up to take advantage of the fact that the very black folks are afraid, less so now than historically, to build their own systems or to take charge or to demand to be taken charge or file lawsuits, okay? A system that the person in charge tends to use a tribalist point of view in hiring and favoring people who look like them but are not qualified. And and I'll tell you, I've seen this in a number of different walks of life. I've talked to people who hire staff that turn out to be incompetent in a certain way, but they're comfortable with that incompetence. And you turn around and that staff is white. And that happens all the time. But if it's black, it's like, oh, they make up an excuse. That happens all the time. And so it's not my job to rubber stamp a norm that has really harmed this society. And it is immoral. And it goes against the idea that you give the best person the job, because in point of fact, it doesn't happen. And all of this conversation we're talking about comes up when you have woman after woman after woman that talks now about their problems in being harassed. And I will tell you, these two issues fit together. You got people who hire someone because they're comfortable with them, or the old saw with respect to social media is, I'll get a girl to do it. Well, think about the flip side of that and these complaints about getting that girl. Why are you really hiring that girl? I've heard that from CEOs that make a lot of money. Okay, I mean a lot of money. And I'm not gonna. So the veiled thing is, I'm not gonna hire this qualified black person. I'm gonna hire a young girl. So they're gonna use their racism, keep that person out, qualified black. Use their sexism to bring in the girl that they can, oogle at. All right, and pay less. Thereby introducing the gender issue in terms of pay. All right, so hey, look, okay. All right. So my point is, okay. So my point is, that is racist. And, on second thought, it's not disrespectful of me to point out that that's racist. It is racist. Because it is. It is a statement of being. It is a statement of being. By its spread, it puts black people down and lifts white people up. That's racist. And when you support a system like that, you're being racist. I don't care what you look like. That's it. Joseph Bismuth says, so you feel there's enough cultural color in the NFL? I mean, that's what I get Karen saying. It's like, well, it's enough to have like 2 or 3, no more. I mean, come on. But it's okay to have all these players as the majority. Rick Rice says, well, we need more Asian coaches, but skips over the fact that there are barely any there's not a large number of Asian players. So in other words, you want to repeat the imbalance and keep the black person down. And then say that you're black? That's a joke. That's a complete joke. Yeah. Changing the subject, with 831 Scott says, the Raiders need to go after a mean D lineman that requires a double team in the offseason. That would set up Mack so that he is more effective. The Raiders have no pressure at all from the defensive tackles. And, here's the thing. And see, here's where Karen's being racist again. She says, Joe said maybe more black people should apply for the jobs. Karen, you don't do any research. You just write stuff down that's stupid. That's stupid. I mean, you really need to research the topic. You really do. I mean, you'll just say something to support your point of view and not ask the question, well, hey, Zen, you cover the NFL. What's the situation like? And then you wonder why I call you racist. Okay? Eric says, Zinni, I'm not a very happy Oakland Raider fan right now. A lot of questionable rules lately in the organization. Yep. And Dark Mech says, there's no inside pressure for Mack and Irwin And that's that technique issue. Remember, you weren't with us, or maybe you had a different one, all right? All right? And the different one is that we talked about how the Raiders are always keeping their pads high, the defensive linemen. Back. Yeah. Happens. Okay. Joseph, you're Warren Moon. Let's see here. I know Warren Moon. Let's see here. Now, what's going on here? Dak Prescott. Right, but the whole point that you guys made, particularly you and Rick Karen, was that because you have a handful of black coaches, that there's a problem. I mean, there's not a problem. When in point of fact, you have a ton of black players, including quarterbacks now, but a handful of head coaches? Okay? If you truly want racial equality, you should not want a system that looks like a slave house. And that's what the current system looks like. Okay? And Karen, there is racism when you have 70% black players and the majority of head coaches are white. And management positions are white. That's a slave system. Okay? That is racist. It's not even a matter of discussion. It just is. And you're defending it is not moral. And again, you're not being moral. You don't like that I say that? Change your view. But I'm going to continue to push that until you change your view. You support an immoral system, you're being immoral. Okay? That's it. That's it. And Joseph Bisman's right. He says, Karen, that's just not acknowledging anything. Ridiculous to say that there is a racism in the NFL or sports. Right. It is. And then she makes statements that are racist, and then she gets upset when you point it out. Karen, you're being racist. You are being racist. Okay? And then she says another racist statement. She says, maybe 70% black people is racist to white males. You have a problem. We've been through this before, Karen. You have a problem, okay? And what I ask that you not do this time, okay, please, is don't, text me in off hours when I'm out on Friday night having dinner or something, and then suddenly there's incessant texts. If you don't like being a certain way or being identified as being racist, okay, you're going to have to live with it. Or change. But you have a giant race problem. Okay? Rick Rice says Karen's point is that the NFL teams hire people with talent, not their race. That's not true. If they only hired white players, there'd be so many black players. Not true, Rick. You know what it is. And Rick Rice, I'm not even going to read your other statement because it is really just complaints. It's just plain pandering. Okay? All right? And Karen, you texted me a time. And it was like a stream, and I had to tell you to stop. All right? And Drake, I really don't know who you are, but I think that I don't like that you're here just for this. Okay? So there. All right? Now, let's see here. And all right. Dark Spec says, Zinni out here exposing people. I like it. Thank you. Thank you. And Karen, don't lie. You texted me first, okay? Remember, because the first time I blocked you, all right? Because I got tired of this racist stuff that you're spewing. I didn't want to deal with it. So you took what was here, you took it off, and that's when I was like, you know what? So I'm saying this time, don't do it. Please, don't do it. All right? So, and she's writing, not cool. Well, it's not cool for you to come in and espouse racist points of view. That's not cool. It's not a matter of your view. That is racist. It is racist. Oh, geez Louise. Okay? And back then you forgot about it. So anyway, you know, but you're dredging up all over again because you have these issues. And you're not, you know, I don't know if you do it to learn or what. But you're trying to tell me as a black person who's went through this fun, and these other people who claim to be black, I'm not believing it. I'm not believing it. Because no one could claim to be black, experience problems, and then justify a system as is not to be changed or improved. No way. Anyway, okay. Dartmouth says, Charles Woodson comes back and gives defenses powers. I like that one. I like that one. 831 Scott says, racism sadly exists everywhere, including the NFL. The Colin Kaepernick situation boils down to race, in my opinion. If he was white, I doubt he would be blackballed by the league. Yep. And Charles Woodson is awesome. Absolutely. Completely. Completely. Absolutely. And 831 Scott says, Joseph Minson says, thank you, 831 Scott. How is the Kaepernick situation not racist? Andrew says, is it possible to agree with systemic racism with the NFL, but still point out the proportion of black head coaches in the NFL is comparable to the overall U.S. demographic, about 15%. It's progress. No, it's not. Because that's taking two statistics that, in point of fact, don't have anything to do with each other and using it to cover up a problem. You have the same look right now that caused Bob McNair to get into trouble when he used the term inmates guarding the asylum, okay, or prison. He said prison. And since you have a problem of, in terms of population, a disproportionate number of blacks being jailed, many for unjust reasons, he makes that statement. And so it forces you to look at the whole. And the structure is racist. Okay? Whew. All right. And so, Karen, if you're going to come here and get upset and take it personally, you know, whatever you decide to do, you know, is from here on out is what you decide to do. Okay? Purely. But you clearly have an issue. And if you come to my channel, and it has to do with being the opposite of what I've experienced and problems that are in this society, I'm going to call it out. Period. And that's exactly what I do. If you don't like that, I make zero apology for it. I mean, zero. Okay? Zero. Because too many people have been damaged by that. Andrew says, fair enough, I just thought I would mention that there's some progress in the NFL. I see. And I see your point. But this, look, when there is a situation where you have, Crawford says, this has to be this most explosive live stream in recent memory. No, the last explosive one was when Karen started acting the way she is, like, just this time, okay? So that was the last time. And note, she always chimes in when there's a race win. I mean, that's the simple act. You won't see her for this or that, but then when it comes to this, it's like she jumps in. All right? So it's almost like an itch she has to scratch. Serious. It's just like, and it is very funny. You know, you gotta laugh at life. Gotta laugh at yourself. Okay. So Saddam says, just joined here. Man, this is crazy. Adam, welcome to my world. Rick Rice says, they only fired one Mac man and Zinni gets all fired up. Well, Rick, maybe they ought to, maybe they ought to think about having you on, and then you can experience it, and then you can tell us, and then we can come to your defense. Just saying, okay? But whatever. The whole point is, all right. We have now some new news, I believe, since I'm not getting tired officially of talking about that. And that's done. We have, guess what? We've got, we've got a new bit of news. In Raiders Stadium deal, sides still split over workforce and business goals, which means that according to, as of today, the 21st, the matter of, and this is something that I got last week from a conversation with Stanley Washington, the matter of the community benefits agreement is still not done. It says public policy that relies on the kindness of private business tilts power. You talk about race, here's another problem, another race problem right here, okay? And basically, statement of authority officials and board members, this is a long one. Basically, it says, while Raider officials stress their commitment to corporate citizenship, they use no subtlety in reminding board members of how state law is written. It's not a plan that merits approval by a board or any other entity, says the Raiders lawyer Dan Bertrelli. Bertrelli says he had a large hand in drafting legislation. He did, okay. Basically what this article does is recap. This is sort of a space filler, okay? It recaps the meeting that was also very contentious, okay? And it points out the board's next meeting is December 14th, in which Hill anticipates the community benefits plan will appear on the agenda again, but not necessarily for passage, okay? He is only pointing out in this article that there is still a problem. And there is a problem because, and again, here is race. You've got a situation where Las Vegas, all right, does not Las Vegas is not used to having guidelines for minority hiring on the level. They've had them before, but on the level that this calls for. And it's not in their culture, whereas in California culture, it's all over the place, okay? So, it's almost 3:30 a.m. Yeah, it is. Ooh, late. Late. Rick Rice says, Norton was a great positional coach, but couldn't cut it because his head coach didn't properly teach him. Let's be saying that. Dark Mech says, I'm tired of people saying Lynch is a problem. Lynch has been consistent the whole time. Completely agree. Crawford says, you see lapel on the side of Russell Road. Yep. And Adam says he agrees. Well, he didn't seem good at all. But again, you guys keep rolling this around. And the fact of the matter is that Jack Del Rio coached him. Okay? So, all right. And the person that put OBJ in the corner against Brandon Cooks was Jack Del Rio. So, yeah. Baller said, why do you say Jack set Ken up to fail? Because, I'll tell you what, Baller, that's a great question. All right? Thank you for finally asking the question that many people should have asked long ago, this thread. Because it is documented. I said it before and I'll say it again. And it's right here in black and white, okay? Let's see here. Del Rio. Make sure I find this. Right, it's right here. It's right here in black and white. This is February 6th of 2015. I showed it before, but there's some people who just don't want to pay attention. Ken Norton Jr. make play calls with Jack Del Rio involved grooming him. Note, grooming him. Raiders' new defensive coordinator, Ken Norton Jr., says he will make the offensive play calls, but Jack Del Rio will have some say as well, okay? And then when you read this, okay, this was February 6th, 2015, all right? And it says that Norton Jr. said Del Rio will be very much involved in the way they handle the defense, but that Norton Jr. will be making the play calls on game day. All right? Play calls are schemes, okay? And then after several weeks, this is found them around Ken Norton Jr., all right? And then there hasn't been a formal decision, but in my early meetings with him, his plan is to continue to groom me, and I'll be making the calls to groom him. They're old friends, okay? And talked about the Seahawks defense. He said prior to this week, he and the Raiders had not formally discussed his coming to the team as defensive coordinator. That was mainly because the Raiders were exploring other options such as Mike Smith, White, Ari Mangini, White, and Todd Grantham, White. But for whatever reason, none of those candidates worked out. And that's, you know, and he said that's when the attention shifted to Norton Jr., but they had to wait until the Super Bowl to bring him in. And so what happened was that Del Rio wanted to give Norton Jr. the chance to learn the art and science of being a defensive coordinator under his wing, doing it his way, okay? And so when you set, that's the setup. The setup is, hey, look, I will coach you in my way. You do it my way, and I'll defend you. So what Jack Del Rio should have said to Mark Davis is, look, and Reggie McKenzie, look, me. You have to fire me before you fire him, okay? And he didn't do that. He said, hey, look, I taught him, so therefore, I take the fall. But he didn't do that, okay? All right? So anyway, all right. Let's see here. Litany says a position coach turned DC is like a clerk turned programming coordinator. Grooming is necessary. What business promotes without grooming? Right. But if you promotes without grooming, think about this. There's two types of defensive coordinators. The Mike Smiths and the Todd Granthams are the people that you hire who have their own defensive ideas. Ken Norton didn't have his own defensive idea that he was known for. You hire Mike Smith, you know that you're going to get on fourth down a wide tackle 6 approach. You know that you're going to get two gapping that isn't always effective. You know that you're going to get a more of a balanced approach and not an attacking defense with Mike Smith. You know that. Todd Grantham, the same thing. You're not going to get the Seattle defense from either one of them. But with Ken Norton Jr., you get a guy who learns something about the Seattle defense from his position, plays as a position coach, but not a defensive coordinator. But you have to remember something else. Dan Quinn started off as a position coach, then became DC, and then head coach with the Falcons. So, yeah, everyone is groomed, but then you don't fire somebody that you groomed. If you groom that person, you take responsibility for the grooming and you get fired. That's the way that works. That's not how it works in this case, okay? Louis says, facts, Zenny, I agree. My point exactly. Thank you. It took this long. My goodness. Oh, my goodness. Norton is not the one that put OB on the corner. You just heard that, Karen. At all. Okay? Because the head coach approves who starts. The defensive coordinator doesn't put that in there, and the head coach has no knowledge of it. You came up with that to cover your own point of view. So again, you don't want to learn, okay? Ethan Scott says, Latavius Murray is better than Lynch. Okay, all right. It is now 3:31, and I am officially going to bed. This has been lively and also necessary, very necessary. So remember, racism never pays. Racism is a mental illness, okay? You should never represent a racist society or a racist system, and you should criticize it and combat it wherever possible. Never support an immoral social structure. Never support a slave social structure. Never support a sexist social structure. Notice, no one ever bothered to ask how come Dr. Jin was hired as a coach on the Raiders. And yet, Dr. Jin was a guest on my show. Karen Christensen, you didn't come in. Did you come in to, ask Dr. Jin questions as the first female coach in the NFL? I don't remember. All right? Okay? So, that's it. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to make a point. My point is this. Stop it. We've got to move forward to improve society. We cannot accept systems that put people down. It's immoral. All right? Okay. All right. Good night, 831 Scott. All right. Thank you. I will keep up the good work. I definitely will. Okay? All right. Good night, everybody. Take care of yourselves. All right. All right. Thank you. Good night. And Adam, no, I will not stop calling someone racist when their point of view is racist. If they don't want to have a racist, be thought of as racist, then don't express a racist point of view. It is that simple. Okay? Period. That is wrong. Good night. Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. All right, see ya. And Baller, actually, I did answer your question, but if you say you are right, answer your question, it proves you weren't listening. Go back and listen. Okay? All right? Good night, everybody. See ya. Good night. No, you the man. I'll see you later. Good night. I'm exhausted. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.